Good afternoon. Today is the 20th of December 2021. Welcome to the lunchtime news here on TV1 for the News First team. I'm Sanita Senanayaka. Before we take a look at the stories for this afternoon in detail, let's take a look at headlines.
Report of the expert committee appointed to probe recent gas explosions to be handed over to the President. Will safe gas cylinders be released to the market today? Foreign currency reserves to be increased to $3 million by the end of this month. Strike action launched in government hospitals in 5 districts. Representative Summit of the National People's Power opens in Colombo.
On to those stories in detail. The report prepared by the committee appointed to investigate gas cylinder-related fires and explosions is to be handed over to the President today. Chairman of the committee, Professor Shanta Walpala, stated that the report is scheduled to be handed over to the President at 3:30 p.m. today.
A presidential committee was appointed to investigate gas cylinder-related fires and explosions under the chairmanship of Professor Shanta Walpala of the Moratuwa University. Senior DIG Deshabandhu Tenakon, Professor Ajit Dialvis of the Moratuwa University, Professor W.D.W. Jayatilaka of the Sri Jayawardenepura University, Professor Pradeep Jayavira, Commissioner of the Sri Lanka Inventors Commission, Professor Narayan Sirimuthu, Additional Director General of the Institute of Industrial Technology, Dr. Sudarshana Somasiri, and Senior Deputy Director of the Sri Lanka Standards Institute, Sujiva Mahagama, were appointed as members of the committee.
Against such a backdrop, incidents related to gas explosions continue to take place. A gas cooker exploded in a house in Vilgodavatta in Kottawagama, Yakkalamulla. However, no casualties were reported. A gas cooker exploded in a house in Thalakolatanna, Tolangamu in Varakapola yesterday. Another gas explosion was reported in Mutuminigama, Sevanagala yesterday. Our correspondent noted one person was injured following the explosion.
The Ministry of Finance says required measures have been taken to increase the foreign currency reserves in the country.
Secretary to the Ministry of Finance, S.R. Artikala, said the Governor of the Central Bank has already established a plan to increase the foreign currency reserves. Newsfirst inquired into the matter from the Governor of the Central Bank, Ajit Niwat Cabral. He stated the Central Bank will be able to raise $3 billion of foreign currency reserves before the end of this month. Meanwhile, Ministry of Finance noted that there is no plan in place to print a 10,000 rupee note in the future. The Secretary of the Ministry of Finance noted the information circulating regarding this is untrue.
Taking a look at the COVID-19 situation in the country, 551 COVID-19 cases were identified yesterday. Accordingly, the total COVID-19 cases identified in the country rose to 579,685. 18 deaths were confirmed yesterday.
A consignment of 800,000 doses of Pfizer vaccines arrived in the island this morning as a donation from the United States of America. 3.4 million doses of vaccines have been gifted by the U.S. to Sri Lanka so far. The U.S. Chargé d'Affaires Martin Kelly said the United States of America are committed to providing assistance to the vaccination program of Sri Lanka. The U.S. Chargé d'Affaires Martin Kelly further said Ministry of Health, UNICEF and the WHO are committed to building and securing the world without the threat of infectious diseases. The United States has donated 300 million doses of COVID-19 vaccines around the world.
Taking a look at more local news, the unresolved fertilizer crisis continues to burden the farming community in the country.
Farmers cultivating maize in the Kaluarachia Gama in Anuradhapura are helpless at the moment. They cultivate maize in 500 acres of land. Even though they started cultivation 3 months ago, they still have not received fertilizer. The farmers say that they have no option other than giving up on farming, which they started by pawning their jewellery and selling what they had.
Now, amidst the fertilizer crisis, several views regarding the ship carrying Chinese fertilizer were expressed in the political arena today. They said that they will not pay compensation to the ship carrying Chinese fertilizer. They are charging $6.7 million for sending back the ship. We have to pay this amount and purchase the fertilizer back. Some ministers are saying that we have to pay this amount or ties between countries could be affected. What is the point of this government? We must solve this problem in a friendly manner without any disputes. It is easy for anyone to say that we paid compensation to a ship carrying waste. We might have to face more severe consequences if we start a dispute with a powerful country. 6 million is more favorable to us than $1.5 billion. China is a country that assisted us at times of financial difficulties. No, the cabinet decided to pay a sum close to 6 billion. We must pay that amount. This money is not coming from Madamulana. This compensation is not being paid from the funds deposited in Gotabaya Rajapaksha's and Basil Rajapaksha's accounts in the United States. It will be paid using your money. It is the money charged from the rice, dal and reload cards you use that will be used in paying this compensation payment worth 6.7 million. Who thought that Sri Lankans would have to pay for waste? If we knew that this is going to happen, we would have collected waste for the past 2 years, sell it, and then give those earnings to the people. Had they told us earlier, we would have collected it. Today, there is no milk powder for children to consume. It is difficult to purchase essential medicines. They are not spending money to import essential food items for the people to consume. China is our ally. We must solve this issue diplomatically. India is also our ally. President has assured the nation that we can solve disputes with India in a diplomatic manner. We think that is important. If there are any mistakes, steps must be taken to rectify them. I don't think that China will help us in times of trouble. There is a possibility of us facing a food crisis in the future. We must be prepared for that. We must commence a large-scale operation of manufacturing food in the future. A large-scale cultivation program, a program to encourage Sri Lankans to cultivate food must be started. It must jumpstart now. If not, we will have to go through some difficult times.
Now
those were the views expressed in the political arena yesterday regarding the ship carrying Chinese fertilizer. In more local news, Minister of Foreign Affairs Professor G.L. Piris reiterated that Sri Lanka is committed to the national agenda of human rights and the amendments to the Prevention of Terrorism Act. He made these remarks during a meeting with special UN representatives.
The Foreign Minister informed the Assistant Secretary General of the United Nations, Assistant Administrator and Director of UNDP Regional Bureau for Asia and the Pacific that the government is committed to seeking progress on the matter. Assistant Administrator and Director of the UNDP Regional Bureau for Asia and the Pacific, Kanni Vignaraja, has said that she would assist Sri Lanka in achieving the Sustainable Development Goals.
Doctors attached to government hospitals in 5 districts have decided to launch a 24-hour token strike today.
Strike is carried out in Mena, Trincomalee, Nuwara, Ratnapura and Polonnaruwa districts. The strike was launched at 8 this morning. The Government Medical Officers Association said the strike is being launched protesting against the deployment of doctors without the approval of the Transfer Board. However, emergency medical services will continue to operate despite the token strike. Meanwhile, the daily operations of several hospitals were halted today. The OPD and clinical operations were also halted today. As a result, patients who came to the hospital had to return home. Patients in the Ratnapura district were severely inconvenienced due to the disrupted services in the hospital. The strike is being carried out in hospitals in the Trincomalee district. Despite the disruption of hospital services, emergency treatment is still in operation. The strike was also launched by doctors attached to the Nuwara General Hospital. Our correspondent said as a result of the strike, almost all hospital services came to a standstill. Meanwhile, due to the strike, all operations at the Dikkoya Base Hospital were halted except for the emergency treatment services. Meanwhile, Government Medical Officers Forum convening a media briefing noted they oppose the strike action staged across 5 districts.
If
the people are being burdened for an issue where the responsibility should be taken by a head of the ministry or a leader of the country, we see it as a weakness. So why does it happen this way? I see this as a weakness of the government. Government is the one that brought this situation by providing all the facilities and the power to the Government Medical Association. Now see, there's a situation. The main reason for this situation is that the government is working to give such power to this mafia.
මේ මාෆියා කල්ලියකට එවැනි ශක්තියක් ලබා දීමට රජයක් කටයුතු කිරීම.
Taking a look at your weather update for this afternoon, the Met Department says showers or thunder showers can be expected at several areas in the western and Sabaragamu provinces and in Nuwara, Gaul and Matara districts.
Landslides and rock slides have been reported at several places in the Alagolla and Kampahawata areas on the Valimada Udupu-Sallawa road due to heavy showers. Police said that due to this situation, people must be careful when driving on the road. A section along the Balangoda-Kotuwalpola-Kahadapitiya road has been affected by a landslide due to heavy rains. Our correspondent said the landslide had occurred last afternoon. Due to the landslide, the houses below it are at risk and an electric pole is also at risk of collapsing.
1 person died and 4 others were injured in several accidents reported in many parts of the country.
An individual died in an accident in the Dihiyagata area in Jaila. Police said the motorbike which the individual was travelling in had met with an accident at 3 in the morning. 4 people were injured when 2 motorbikes collided in Palatota, Kaluthara. Police said a motorbike which was travelling towards Kaluthara collided with another motorbike when attempting to overtake a bus. The injured are residents of Gamagoda in Panadura and Kitulawa in Kaluthara. The injured were admitted to the Nagoda hospital where police noted the condition of 3 are critical.
Voices of Unity. Schools from across the island joining together to herald the message of Christmas with the theme Harmony and Unity. Voices of Unity. Monday at 7:30 p.m. on TV1. Sponsored by Office for National Unity and Reconciliation.
In international news, top US infectious disease experts say Christmas travel will increase the spread of the Omicron COVID-19 variant even among the fully vaccinated.
Dr. Anthony Fauci says, and I quote, "There is no doubt about this. Omicron has an extraordinary capability of spreading," end quote. Dr. Fauci, who advises the US government on the pandemic, said the variant was now ravaging through the world. Rapid spread of Omicron in the US could have a serious impact on health services across the country. Countries are tightening measures as the heavily mutated variant spreads. Governments are also ramping up their COVID booster vaccination programs after researchers said the additional shot could provide around 85% protection against severe illness. Dr. Fauci said unvaccinated people were at a much higher risk of serious infection and hospitalization.
Taking a look back at a local news that has made headlines this afternoon, Representative Summit of the National People's Power commenced at the Monarch Imperial Conference Hall in Sri Jayawardenepura this morning. Under the auspices of its leader Andra Kumara Disanayaka. The representative summit was named Solution to Rebuild the Broken Motherland.
The economy of our country has gone into a disaster situation. There is shortage in terms of essential items. The prices of essential items have increased. More than 1,500 containers with essential items are stuck at the port. The question at the moment is that whether we can pay the loan dues. The day-to-day life of the general public had taken into a crisis. What is the value of economic and political policy that cannot uplift the standard of life and strengthen the economical situation of the country? What we have faced now is not a natural disaster. These are the effects created after our country followed an unsuccessful and wrong political economical journey. If our country had fallen into this level because of wrong political and economical policies, we can get back to normalcy only by establishing correct political and economical policies.
වැරදි ආර්ථික දේශපාලන ප්‍රතිපත්තියක් නම් මේකෙන් ගොඩ එන්න තිබෙන්නේ නිවැරදි ආර්ථික දේශපාලන ප්‍රතිපත්තියක්.
Now certain people think we don't need politics. It is the same situation if anyone comes into power. If we earn, we will eat. That is what they say. Many people are leaving the country. They are not leaving the country looking for jobs. They are looking for social security. A wife tells the husband what will the future look like for their children in this country. What we require is a combined effort. We will build the national people's power as one that will bring everyone together. We are ready to accept this country. We are ready to rebuild this country. When the people had stayed indoors due to the threat of COVID-19, the rulers robbed through antigen deals.
අපි එකක් කියන්න ලෑස්ති. අපි සූදානම් මේ රට බාර ගන්න. ඒ වගේම අපි සූදානම් මේ රට හදන්න. කොවිඩ් වසංගත තත්ත්වයේ මිනිසුන් මරණය අභියස සිටියදී තමන්ගේ එලිපත්තට
Rulers robbed from quarantine and from the people living abroad. They stole from the food provided at the quarantine centers. Will the rulers build the country? The farmers who had engaged in cultivations for generations are thinking now whether to engage in cultivations or not. The rulers brought about nano-nitrogen and Chinese fertilizer which are not suitable, and at a time when the farmers are taking to the roads and pleading for fertilizer. Will these rulers build the country? Corrupt politicians are the main reason for this. In 1950, the debt of this country was 1 billion rupees. By April, that will increase to a mammoth amount. What we are asking is, where is the wealth? Can the rulers show that? We must ask what they did with the wealth for this country. They cannot show us anything.
1950 දී රුපියල් බිලියනයක් වූ ණය පංගුව රුපියල් කෝටි 100ක් වූ ණය පංගුව මේ අප්‍රේල් මාසේ 30 වෙනිදා වෙනකොට අපේ ණය පංගුව රුපියල් කෝටි 16,30,000ක් වී තිබෙනවා. අපි අහන්නේ කෝ ඒ ධනෙ පාලනය කරපු පාලකයන්ට පෙන්වන්න පුළුවන්ද? මේ රට විශාල ණය කන්දක හිර කරලා ගන්නා ලද ණය වලින් ගොඩනගපු දෙයක් පෙන්වන්න. කිසිට උන්ට පෙන්වන්න බෑ.
In your sports news, Banuka Rajapaksa-led Gaul Gladiators booked a spot in the finals of the LPL 2021 for the second consecutive year, defeating Jaffna Kings by 64 runs in the first qualifier played at the Mahinda Rajapaksa International Cricket Stadium in Hambantota yesterday. Jaffna Kings will have a second shot at the finals when they take Dambulla Giants in the second qualifier tomorrow. The match is set to commence at 8:30 p.m.
Galle Gladiators, after being put into bat first by Jaffna Kings, got off to a brilliant start as their openers Dhanushka Gunatilaka and Kusal Mendes put on 121 runs in 13.2 overs. Gunatilaka was the first to get out for 55 of